Hello. Afternoon all, we are the four cranes. So our problem statement was, can we optimize crane usage by reducing the amount of time cranes are out of action due to weather-related issues? So we had crane data, which was about 22,000 rows from McAlpine. We had weather data that was scraped off the web from the last couple of months. And that was basically the data that we used. The technology we used Python to help clean the data. So Ben and myself were doing that. And then we did some Exo as well to clean it a little bit further when we're putting it into Power BI. And then Fabrizio came in with his beautiful graphs and how we're doing it. And then Matt and I did it in Power BI as well.
Yeah, so one of our user stories was, as a project manager, I want to reduce non-productive time so I can improve the efficiency of crane usage. So as the graph shows, 25% of each month is wasted on idle time when there's fault with cranes and maintenance.
So what times, months, seasons is the crane usually winded off, and how can McAlpine avoid these times? So you can see that, so the graph at the top shows January, Feb, March, and then the back end of the year is usually the months where the cranes are winded off, and that sort of correlates with the average wind speeds that the anemometers, which are the wind speed on the top of a crane. So that sort of correlated, and then the same with the breakdown on the right shows it by hour. So anywhere between 8 and 8:59 counted as 8. So we sort of broke it down. Otherwise, there's a lot of lines. But you can kind of, well, there are some anomalies in that. But yeah, basically, so as a project planner, I want to understand if there are correlations in the wind data so I can better plan the project program. So, you know, at times you know that in a program you might have some big lifts coming up. And if you're collecting this data, you know, over the course of the project, or because you've got other projects in London, so you know what that weather's going to be like, you can say, okay, look, we need to do this early in the morning, late in the evening, but during the middle of the day is a big no-no, or something like that. So the publicly available wind data that James web scraped, there was only basically Jan and Feb from 2020. So in terms of using that data, so we use the anemometer data from the cranes, but using the actual, I don't know if it was Met Office or wherever the official weather data was from. Ideally, you'd want a lot more. So you'd want a year's worth, because then you can actually relate it back to the crane data, because that was 2 years worth of crane data. So there's a lot more data there. So that's 22,000 rows, whereas this was about a couple of thousand. So quite a big difference in the amount of data that you had. So crane wind measurements and wind data. So as a site manager, I want to understand whether there are correlations between wind data collected by cranes and the officially collected wind data, as it will allow us to understand how accurate the official weather data is and whether it is useful to us for planning. So on site, we have a daily coordination meeting where we look at what we're planning to do the next day, and you also do 6 weekly coordinations where you're looking at what's happening in the next 6 weeks. So from the very small sample of Jan and Feb 2020 data, the light blue is the anemometer crane wind speed, and the orange is the most useful because that's the wind speed that was collected officially at 80 meters above ground, which is roughly where a crane would be sat. So there was some correlation in that, but as we said before, we'd want a lot more data to verify that. Next time, so crane data, so you could have your contractors and your drivers, so you'd know whether there are particular contractors or drivers that are doing a lot of idle time or during the winded off time, that sort of thing. Wind data, again, more of it and over a whole year. And then scheduled data, because you could bring that program data in and start automating things and seeing where it goes. And that's about it.